here's some dating advice that you can actually use. So if you haven't watched my last video going over my 5 dating archetypes, please watch that first because I'm not going to go into descriptions in this video. I'm going to go straight into advice for each type, starting with the avoiders. Avoiders, you have a special place in my heart because, as I said, I used to be an avoider. I was an avoider. I was in an avoider phase for many years, and I understand how overwhelming it can feel to get started dating. But here's the thing, you have to start to show yourself that you can handle the love that you want. And that means by starting to date and to put yourself out there. And even just to speak to the people in your life and just to be honest with them and say, I'm at a place in my life now where I'm ready to start dating. I'm actually ready to put myself out there. And also not to get ahead of yourself, because one of the things that can really get you stuck when you're in this avoider phase is feeling like you've got to go from 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. And the reality is, like right now, what you might need more than to be in a relationship is just to find out, like, okay, well, what do I actually like in dating? Like, who am I really attracted to, and what are the things that I really need? And use this as a period of exploration. So not putting pressure on yourself, but just starting to get more confidence that you can handle dating and you can handle having the love that you want, because you can. And the great news about being in an avoider phase is that as soon as you start dating, then you're out of that phase, right? And you've moved on. And you don't have to go through all the others, right? You can actually just embrace your journey as one where you are growing and you are evolving and you are getting more skilled at not only dating, but at giving and receiving love. Okay. And next up, my loopers. So I've also been in a looper pattern, and this is really for people who, you're not getting off the ground, right? And so it's time for you to really stop and to just take a step back, because I know this can be a really, really frustrating place to be in, but to really take a step back and just to start to ask yourself, okay, a really good thing for you to do is to take a look at the last maybe 3 or 5 people that you've dated or wanted to date, and really just looked at what happened. How did it start? What happened in the middle? And then how did it end? And you want to look for the commonalities. And then you want to make sure that you're doing this without judgment. So, with a lot of self compassionate curiosity. And then just start to really ask yourself gently, but honestly, okay, at what point did I know? Because maybe, for instance, you recognize that you're in a pattern where you're really pulling teeth to get somebody, you're really trying to convince somebody to go out with you. And then maybe you succeed in getting the date, but then they weren't that into it, and it's imbalanced from the start, and then eventually it doesn't go anywhere, and maybe you feel really frustrated. But if you look back and you're like, okay, you know what, actually, we matched on an app, and they were taking days to respond to me. I had to really, I had to do all the work, and maybe that's an indication, okay, maybe I'm not going to do that anymore, right? So it's really just starting to experiment and pay attention to where did maybe you get a sign, and maybe you get a feeling, maybe your gut told you, oh, there's something going on here, but you ignored it. Like, so just looking at those little clues, because it's not that what's happening to you is your fault, but you are a co-creator. So bringing more attention to how you might be contributing to the pattern is the key to stopping it forever. Next up are my loyalists. So, loyalists, you really are on a journey right now of discovering more self worth, that you deserve to be loved. You deserve to be loved the way that you love other people. That even though it's not comfortable for you to receive, because even though this loyalist dynamic doesn't feel good, it does feel comfortable, right? It does feel familiar. So, there is something about the imbalance of you being the one who gives, you being the one who does, and other people taking from you, that feels comfortable, not good, but it does feel familiar. And so the way to heal this is not just by, dating new people. It's really by starting to heal whatever parts of yourself think that you do not deserve reciprocity. Any parts of yourself that feel that you need to earn someone's love. And this is going to require you really being very gentle with yourself, being very honest with yourself about what you believe about yourself, and then starting to really create boundaries and starting to notice those times if you're starting to date somebody new and you're like, oh, wait, this is happening again. I'm kind of like, I haven't heard from them, but then as soon as I hear from them, like I'm responding and I'm available to them, or here we go again. I have, made it clear that I'm looking for a relationship, and this person is telling me that they're looking for something casual, and I'm about to go along with that. And wait a second, that's what I always do. And starting to just be very gently aware of how you are giving too much of yourself and you are rationalizing and you're justifying it, because that is the first step. And it's a really important thing. And for everyone, wherever you are, whatever your pattern is, it's really important to know that when you start to change your relationship with yourself, your attractions change as well. So don't think that, oh, but I'm only attracted to people who XYZ. No, you have been attracted to people who are XYZ. But as you start to deepen your own sense of self worth, you will not be attracted to people who don't see that as well. When you start to give to yourself and allow people to do for you, you won't be attracted to people who you have to do everything for and they give you, crumbs in return. So you deserve more. And the more that you really start to embody that, the more that you will actually be attracted to the people who can give you the more that you deserve. Okay? I promise. All right. Next up, surfers. So, surfers, what's really important for you is to start to get really clear on, okay, what do I actually want in a committed partnership? Because you're really good at the chemistry, you're really good at the romance, you're really good at that intensity, but you're not necessarily thinking through, like, okay, how do I balance the head and the heart here? Because chemistry, as intoxicating as it is, does not mean that this person is your forever person. And I think this is a problem when you're in the surfer phase, is where you're kind of equating that chemistry with, like, oh my God, this means that, I'm supposed to be with this person. And maybe it's the case, but as you have discovered, it's not always the case. So slowing things down, not getting ahead of yourself, not declaring that, oh my God, this person is the one, because you've done that before and it kind of sets you up for a big disappointment when you actually get to know each other. So once you start to spend more time together, have real conversations about, okay, what are you looking for at this point in your life? And really paying attention to when people are telling you how much they're into you, but they're not able to answer or articulate those questions. And also notice, what is the communication, right? When everything is really sexy and juicy and intense, then everything is great. But what happens when you actually do have more serious conversations with each other about relationships, about the future? And is this person able to do that with you? Because if not, then that is a sign that you're probably heading down the same path that you've been before. So, my surfers, it's really important for you to start to take more ownership for what you are co creating, which is really what everybody's assignment is. But for you specifically, it's to start to be more clear about what is actually sustainable versus what is the rush of chemistry and excitement that I'm really into and I love, and start to balance, because you don't have to choose. And this is another important thing I want to say to you surfers, is that any belief that you have to choose between chemistry and stability, that needs to be challenged. And you need to start to show yourself that actually you can have both, but not if you don't give yourself a chance to actually experiment and explore and to start to connect with people who are also looking for both. Okay. And last but certainly not least are my sailors. So, sailors, I've worked with a lot of sailors who might be in their 40s and say, I really haven't been single for, since I was a teenager, because they have just gone from relationship to relationship to relationship, which is not necessarily a bad thing. And, and it's a beautiful thing that you have this ability to commit and to sustain connection over time. However, if you find yourself looking back and saying, I stayed in that relationship too long, because they were a good person, or because they were into me, or because we had a life together, or all of the reasons why you justified staying. But when you're now that you can see, like, actually, it lasted 10 years and maybe it should have lasted one. And I say should have, as, you went through what you needed to go through, right? But how can you learn from it? Some people might be like, oh, lucky you, like, it's so easy for you to get into relationships. But just because it's easy for you to get into a relationship doesn't mean that it's easy for you to get into the right relationship, because you're not giving yourself that time to actually let yourself date and let yourself explore and let yourself be patient and know that, yeah, it might take a little bit longer for you to meet somebody who's truly aligned with you, but that's okay. And not let that tendency that you have to dive right in and you just commit immediately, not let that be the driving force any longer. Because, and this is the same advice that I gave to my surfers and to everyone really, which is if this person is the right person for you, they're going to be the right person for you 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. So you don't have to have this sense of urgency about getting into a relationship. It's more about understanding that the more time that I give this to unfold, and it's not about a set amount of time, but it is about giving yourself enough time to really get to know this person, their character, their level of availability, what it is like to actually be in each other's lives, not just the excitement at the beginning, but actually like what is that experience like of being with that person, living with that person? What are you co-creating together? Asking those questions is what's going to lead you to having so much more clarity that when you are going out and you're dating, it becomes so much easier because you're like, you're no longer in your head second guessing and should I? You're like, no, I actually know what I want. And when you know what you want, it's so much easier to ignore all the distractions. And there are so many distractions in dating. So I hope that this video and the last video have given you a little bit of understanding about where you are on your love journey and what you need to focus on right now. So if you like this video, please make sure that you're subscribed, comment below. And also, if you're new here, at the end of each video, I give you a heart work question, which is just a question for you to go deeper into today's video. And this week's heart work is coming up right now.